The bullets tore through my chest before I could think. 2 shots, burning pain. But all I saw was her, the billionaire I'd sworn to protect. Then darkness swallowed everything. When I woke up 3 weeks later, my daughter was crying beside my bed. I didn't recognize her face. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. Daniel Hayes woke up in a hospital bed 3 weeks later, confused and broken. White walls, beeping machines, the smell of antiseptic burning his nose. His chest felt like someone had driven a truck over it, again and again. "Dad! Dad, you're awake." A little girl's voice cut through the fog. She had curly brown hair and tears streaming down her cheeks. She looked about 7 years old. Daniel stared at her. His heart ached with a strange emptiness. Who are you?" The little girl froze. Her smile died. "Dad, it's me. It's Emma. Your daughter." The words hit him like another bullet. Daughter. He had a daughter. But when he looked at her crying face, he felt nothing but confusion. No memories. No connection. Just a terrible, hollow blank. A nurse rushed in, gently pulling the sobbing child away. "Mr. Hayes, please stay calm. You've been through severe trauma. The doctors will explain everything." Dr. Mitchell came an hour later, a tired-looking man with kind eyes. He sat beside Daniel's bed and spoke in a soft voice. "Mr. Hayes, you took 2 bullets to your chest. 1 missed your heart by inches. The surgery was complicated. You lost a lot of blood. Your brain was deprived of oxygen for several minutes." "What does that mean?" Daniel's voice came out rough and weak. "It means you have retrograde amnesia. You've lost your memories, possibly all of them before the incident. We don't know if they'll come back. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't." Daniel closed his eyes. His whole life, gone. Erased like words on a chalkboard. Who did I save?" The nurse mentioned I saved someone. Dr. Mitchell hesitated. "A woman. Victoria Ashford. She's one of the wealthiest people in the country. She's been here every day, waiting for you to wake up. She wants to see you, but I told her to wait until you're stronger. Why would I take bullets for a stranger? According to the police report, you were her bodyguard. You threw yourself in front of her when 2 men opened fire at a charity event. You saved her life. A bodyguard. He had been a bodyguard." Daniel looked down at his hands, rough, calloused, strong despite the hospital stay. These hands had protected someone. These hands had held his daughter. But he remembered none of it. Emma came back later that evening, accompanied by an elderly woman with silver hair. The woman introduced herself as Margaret, his neighbor who had been caring for Emma. "Emma, sweetheart, your father needs time," Margaret said gently, but Emma pulled away from her. The little girl walked slowly to Daniel's bedside. Her eyes were red from crying. "Do you really not remember me, Dad?" Daniel's throat tightened. Every instinct screamed that he should know this child, should love her, should have a lifetime of memories with her. But there was only emptiness. "I'm sorry." Emma's bottom lip trembled. "Do you remember Mom? Your mother? She died when I was 3. Car accident. It was just you and me after that. You said we were a team. You said nothing would ever break us apart." Her voice cracked. "Do you remember any of that?" Tears burned Daniel's eyes. Not from memory, but from the crushing weight of loss. "I don't. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I wish I did." Emma nodded slowly, wiping her eyes. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small photograph, worn at the edges. She placed it on his bedside table. "That's us. Last year on my birthday. You took me to the fair. You won me a giant teddy bear. I named him Mr. Buttons. Daniel picked up the photograph with shaking hands. A man with dark hair and tired eyes smiled at the camera, his arm around a laughing little girl. They looked happy. They looked like family. But the man in the photo was a stranger. I'll try to remember, Daniel whispered. I promise I'll try. Okay. Emma's voice was small. I love you, Dad. Daniel's throat closed up. How could he say it back when he didn't remember her? But looking at her broken expression, he forced the words out. I love you too. It felt like a lie. But Emma smiled through her tears, and Daniel hoped that one day, it would feel like truth. Victoria Ashford appeared 2 days later. Daniel had been moved to a private room, apparently paid for by her. She entered quietly, as if afraid to disturb him. She was younger than he expected, maybe early 30s, with long dark hair and striking green eyes. She wore an expensive black dress and diamond earrings, but her face looked haunted. Mr. Hayes. Her voice trembled. I don't know what to say. You could start by telling me why I jumped in front of bullets for you. Victoria flinched at his cold tone. She sat down in the chair beside his bed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. You don't remember anything? Nothing. Not you. Not my daughter. Not my own life. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. This is my fault. All of it. The doctor said I was your bodyguard. Yes. I hired you 6 months ago after someone started threatening me. Death threats, anonymous letters. Someone wanted me dead. Victoria's voice shook. I didn't take it seriously at first. I'm rich. Powerful. I thought I was untouchable. But you took it seriously. You investigated. You found out who was behind it. Daniel leaned forward, ignoring the pain in his chest. Who? My stepbrother. Richard Ashford. Victoria spat the name like poison. My father built Ashford Industries from nothing. When he died 5 years ago, he left everything to me. The company, the fortune, all of it. Richard got a small trust fund and nothing else. He never forgave me for that. So he wanted you dead. He wanted what he thought was rightfully his. You discovered he'd hired professionals to kill me. The night of the charity gala, you warned me there might be an attempt on my life. I wanted to cancel, but you said we should go. You said it was better to face it head-on with security around rather than let them strike when I was vulnerable. Victoria's hands were shaking now. You were right. 2 men opened fire during my speech. I heard the shots. I saw you move. You pushed me down and covered me with your body. You took both bullets meant for me. And my daughter? Daniel's voice turned hard. What about Emma? Did you think about her when you put me in danger? The question hit Victoria like a slap. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I think about her every single day. I think about what I took from her. Her father, her protector, her whole world. She stood up abruptly, wiping her eyes. I came here to thank you. To tell you that I've set up a fund for Emma's education and future. Anything she needs, for the rest of her life. It's the least I can do. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Victoria's voice broke. Tell me how to make this right. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. Behind the expensive clothes and perfect makeup, he saw guilt. Grief. A woman carrying a burden too heavy to bear. He recognized that look. He saw it in the mirror every morning. Tell me about Richard. Tell me everything. Victoria took a deep breath and sat back down. Richard is ruthless. Cold. After the shooting, the police arrested his hired men, but they refused to testify against him. No evidence directly tied Richard to the attack. He walked free. He's still out there, still running a smaller tech company, still hating me. He'll try again. Yes. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. I know he will. That's why I have 6 bodyguards now. That's why I don't sleep at night. That's why I'm terrified every moment of every day. Daniel's jaw clenched. Anger burned through him, not at Victoria, but at the man who had destroyed his life. Richard Ashford had taken everything from him. His memories, his relationship with his daughter, his very identity. And he was walking free. I want to help you. Victoria's eyes widened. What? No. You've done enough. You've sacrificed enough. I don't have anything else to sacrifice. My memories are gone. My daughter looks at me like I'm a stranger. The only thing I have left is this anger. Daniel met her gaze steadily. Let me use it. Let me finish what I started. You're in no condition. I'll heal. And when I do, I'm going after him. With or without your help. Victoria stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. Then we do this together. But on one condition. What? You get to know your daughter again first. You heal. You build something worth fighting for. Because revenge without purpose is just destruction. The next 3 months were the hardest of Daniel's life. Physical therapy was brutal. His chest ached with every movement. His muscles had weakened during the coma. Simple tasks like walking or lifting his arms exhausted him. But the real torture was Emma. She visited every day after school. Margaret would bring her to his apartment, a small 2-bedroom place filled with photographs Daniel didn't remember taking and furniture he didn't recognize. Emma would sit beside him and talk about her day, about school, about her friends. She showed him her drawings. She told him stories about her mother, a woman named Sarah whom Daniel had loved and lost. He listened. He tried to care. But the memories wouldn't come. Tell me about when I was born, Emma asked one afternoon. They were sitting on the couch, a photo album open between them. Daniel looked at the pictures. A younger version of himself holding a tiny baby wrapped in pink blankets. The joy on his face was unmistakable. I don't remember, sweetie. But you can tell me. What have I told you before? Emma's face fell, but she recovered quickly. She was getting used to his amnesia, learning to adapt. You said Mom's labor was 36 hours. You said it was the scariest day of your life. But when I was finally born, and they put me in your arms, you cried. You said you'd never felt love like that before. Daniel touched the photograph, tracing the outline of the baby's face. I wish I remembered that feeling. It's okay, Dad. Emma leaned against his shoulder. We can make new memories. Her words pierced his heart. This brave little girl, who had every right to be angry with him, was instead offering him grace. Forgiveness, another chance. You're pretty amazing, you know that. Daniel wrapped his arm around her. Emma smiled. You used to say I got it from Mom. They sat in silence for a while, looking at old photographs. Gradually, Daniel began to learn about his life through stories and pictures. He learned that he'd been a police officer before becoming a bodyguard. He learned that Sarah had died on a rainy Tuesday, that Emma had nightmares for months afterward, that he'd quit the force to spend more time with his daughter. He learned that he'd been a good father. Patient, kind, devoted. He wanted to be that man again. Even if he couldn't remember being him. Victoria visited too, though less frequently. She seemed uncomfortable around Emma, as if the child's presence reminded her of the cost of Daniel's sacrifice. But she kept her promise. She helped with Daniel's medical bills. She sent toys and books for Emma. She hired the best doctors to track Daniel's recovery. And slowly, carefully, she began to share information about Richard. He's planning something, Victoria told Daniel one evening. They were in his apartment, Emma asleep in the next room. My investigators say he's been meeting with dangerous people. Criminals, mercenaries. Daniel's hands curled into fists. His physical therapy was paying off. He was stronger now, faster. The old instincts were coming back, even if the memories weren't. When? I don't know. But soon. He's getting desperate. His company is failing. He's drowning in debt. He needs my fortune more than ever. Then we move first. Victoria shook her head. The police won't touch him without evidence. We need proof that he hired those men. We need a confession or a paper trail or something concrete. So we get it. How? Daniel smiled grimly. We make him come to us. We set a trap. The plan took weeks to arrange. Victoria would announce a major charity event at her mansion, a fundraiser for children's hospitals. She would make it public that she'd be donating a significant portion of her fortune. She would paint herself as vulnerable, surrounded by wealthy guests but with minimal security. It was bait Richard couldn't resist. Daniel trained harder than ever. He ran every morning. He practiced at the shooting range. He studied Richard's patterns, his habits, his weaknesses. He became obsessed. Emma noticed. You're different, Dad. They were eating dinner together, spaghetti, which Emma said was his favorite. Daniel put down his fork. Different how? Angrier. Scarier. Emma's voice was quiet. You're planning something, aren't you? Daniel wanted to lie. Wanted to protect her from the truth. But he'd learned that Emma was stronger than she looked. Yes. I'm going after the man who hurt me. The man who hurt us. The man who made you forget me. Yes. Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up, walked around the table, and hugged him tightly. Be careful, Dad. I just got you back. I don't want to lose you again. Daniel held her close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. And in that moment, something shifted inside him. It wasn't a memory. It was something deeper. A feeling that a connection, love. I promise I'll come back to you, he whispered. You promised that last time too, Emma said softly. Her words haunted him. The night of the charity event arrived. Victoria's mansion was lit up like a palace, filled with wealthy guests in expensive clothes. Daniel moved through the crowd, wearing a server's uniform. He'd gone over the security arrangements 100 times. He knew every entrance, every exit, every blind spot. Victoria was stunning in a silver dress, playing her role perfectly. She smiled. She laughed. She gave a speech about giving back to the community. But Daniel saw the fear in her eyes. She knew Richard was coming. And she was right. At 9:47 p.m., the lights went out. Screams erupted. Guests panicked. Daniel moved immediately, his training taking over. He pulled a gun from beneath his jacket and headed toward Victoria's last position. He found her in the dark, surrounded by 3 men in masks. They had guns trained on her. Richard Ashford stood behind them, finally showing his face. Hello, dear sister, Richard said with a cruel smile. Did you really think I'd fall for such an obvious trap? I hoped you were smarter than this, Victoria replied, her voice steady despite the guns pointed at her chest. Smart enough to know you'd have backup. Smart enough to cut the power and jam your communications. Smart enough to bring overwhelming force. Richard nodded to his men. Kill her. Make it look like a robbery gone wrong. Daniel stepped out of the shadows. I don't think so. Richard spun around, shock crossing his face. You're supposed to be a vegetable. Brain damaged. Useless. I got better. Daniel aimed his gun at Richard's head. Tell your men to drop their weapons. Richard laughed. You're outnumbered. You shoot me, they kill her. You shoot them, I kill her. There's no scenario where your precious billionaire survives. You're wrong. Daniel's voice was ice cold. There's one scenario. I take all of you out before anyone gets a shot off. You're not that fast. Try me. For a moment, nobody moved. The darkness pressed in around them. Then one of Richard's men shifted his aim toward Daniel. It was the opening Daniel needed. He moved like lightning. 3 shots. 3 bodies dropping. The men never had a chance to pull their triggers. Daniel's training, his instincts, his muscle memory, they all came flooding back in that moment of life and death. Richard stumbled backward, reaching for a gun. Daniel crossed the distance between them in 2 steps and slammed him against the wall. It's over. You can't prove anything, Richard gasped. Those men won't talk. They're dead now anyway. You have nothing. Daniel smiled coldly. Wrong again. He tapped his chest, where a tiny recording device was hidden beneath his shirt. I have everything. Your confession, your threats. All of it recorded. Richard's face went white. You. Played you. Yes. Daniel pressed the gun harder against Richard's temple. You took everything from me. My memories, my life, my relationship with my daughter. You destroyed me. So kill me then. Richard screamed. Do it. Prove you're just as much a monster as I am. Daniel's finger tightened on the trigger. Every part of him wanted to end this man's life. Wanted revenge, wanted justice. Then he thought of Emma. Her face, her voice, her words. I just got you back. I don't want to lose you again. Daniel lowered the gun. No. You don't get to make me a killer. You don't get to take anything else from me. He stepped back as police lights flooded through the windows. Victoria had triggered a silent alarm the moment the lights went out. Backup had been coming all along. Police stormed in, weapons drawn. They arrested Richard and secured the scene. Detective Morrison, who'd been working the case from the beginning, approached Daniel with respect. We got him, Hayes. Recording's clear. He's going away for life. Daniel nodded, suddenly exhausted. Victoria appeared at his side, tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Thank you for giving me my life back. Thank Emma, Daniel said quietly. She's the one who reminded me what's worth living for. The trial took 4 months. Richard Ashford was sentenced to life in prison without parole for attempted murder, conspiracy, and a dozen other charges. The news covered it extensively. Daniel was called a hero. Victoria testified about his sacrifice. Emma watched from the gallery, holding Margaret's hand. When it was over, Daniel stood outside the courthouse, breathing in fresh air. It was finished. Finally finished. Victoria approached him carefully. I meant what I said. Anything you need. Anything Emma needs. I owe you everything. There is something, Daniel said. Name it. I want to work for you again. But on my terms. Better hours. Better pay. A job that lets me be there for my daughter. Victoria smiled, genuine warmth in her eyes. How about head of security? Office job, mostly. 9 to 5. Weekends off. You'll oversee my entire security team, but from a desk. No more putting yourself in danger. I don't know if I'm qualified. You're the most qualified person I know. Victoria held out her hand. Deal. Daniel shook it. Deal. 6 months later, Daniel and Emma moved into a better apartment. It was closer to Emma's school and Daniel's new office. They furnished it together, making it their own. New memories, new beginnings. The amnesia never fully went away. Daniel still couldn't remember his past, Sarah's face, Emma's childhood, the man he used to be. But he was learning that maybe that was okay. Maybe he didn't need to remember the old Daniel to be a good father now. One evening, Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table while Daniel cooked dinner. She looked up suddenly. "Dad?" "Yeah, sweetie. Do you think Mom would be proud of you? For saving that lady, for stopping the bad man?" Daniel set down the spatula and sat beside her. "I think your mom would be proud of you. For being so brave. For forgiving me when I couldn't remember you. For loving me even when I felt like a stranger." Emma smiled. "She'd be proud of both of us." "Yeah. I think she would." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Emma reached over and took Daniel's hand. "I'm glad you're my dad. Even the new version of you." Daniel squeezed her hand, his throat tight with emotion. "I'm glad I'm your dad too. I may not remember our old life, but I'm grateful for the one we're building now." "Me too." Victoria visited sometimes, usually bringing gifts and staying for dinner. She and Emma got along well. The guilt Victoria carried never fully disappeared, but she channeled it into making sure Daniel and Emma had everything they needed. She'd become family in an unexpected way. One night, after Emma had gone to bed, Victoria and Daniel sat on the balcony, watching the city lights. "Do you ever regret it?" Victoria asked quietly. "Taking those bullets? Losing your memories?" Daniel thought about it carefully. "I regret losing the memories. I regret not remembering Emma's mother or Emma's childhood. I regret the pain I caused my daughter." He paused. "But do I regret saving your life? No. I don't think I could ever regret that." "Why not?" "Because it's who I am. Memory or no memory, that instinct to protect people, that's in my bones. That's my core. And maybe that's the only thing I really needed to remember." Victoria wiped her eyes. "You're a good man, Daniel Hayes." "I'm trying to be." They sat in silence, two people bound together by tragedy and survival, watching the world move on around them. Inside, Emma slept peacefully, her stuffed bear Mr. Buttons held tight in her arms. On her nightstand was the worn photograph of her and Daniel at the fair, a memory he couldn't recall but a moment that had been real. That had been love. And beside it was a new photograph. One taken just last week, Daniel and Emma at the park, laughing at something silly, both of them happy. A new memory. A new moment of love. The past was lost, but the future was bright. A year after the trial, Daniel received an unexpected letter. It was from Richard Ashford, written from prison. His hands shook as he opened it, unsure if he wanted to read the words of the man who'd destroyed his life. The letter was short. "I hate you. I will hate you until the day I die. But I also envy you. You lost everything, and somehow you still have more than I ever did. You have your daughter's love. You have purpose. You have honor. I have nothing but this cell and my bitterness. Maybe you won the moment you chose not to pull that trigger. Maybe I lost the moment I chose revenge over family. I hope Emma knows how lucky she is." Daniel burned the letter. He didn't need Richard's words. Didn't need closure from a man who'd never understand what truly mattered. He picked up his phone and called Emma, who was at a friend's house. "Hey, sweetheart, just wanted to hear your voice." "Dad, are you okay?" Emma's voice was worried. "I'm perfect. I love you, Emma. I just wanted you to know that. I love you too, Dad." He could hear the smile in her voice. After hanging up, Daniel looked at himself in the mirror. The scars on his chest had faded but would never fully disappear. Like his memories. Like the old version of himself. But that was all right. He was Daniel Hayes. Father to Emma, head of security for Victoria Ashford. A man who'd taken 2 bullets and lost his past but found his purpose. He was broken, but he was healing. He was lost, but he was found. And in the end, that was enough. Emma Hayes graduated high school with honors. Her father sat in the audience, tears streaming down his face as she walked across the stage. Victoria was beside him, clapping enthusiastically. In her valedictorian speech, Emma talked about resilience. About loss. About the father who'd forgotten her but never stopped loving her. About how courage isn't about remembering the past, it's about building a future worth fighting for. When she finished, the entire auditorium stood and applauded. After the ceremony, Emma ran to Daniel and hugged him tightly. "Did I make you proud?" Daniel held his daughter close, this amazing young woman who taught him that love doesn't need memory, it just needs presence. "Every single day of my life. Even the days you can't remember. Especially those days," Daniel whispered. "Because you were there, loving me, even when I couldn't love myself. That's real courage, Emma. That's real love." They stood together, father and daughter, 2 people who'd survived the impossible and come out stronger. The past was still a blank. The old memories were still gone. But the new ones? The new ones were beautiful. And that was the greatest gift of all. Daniel stood in the kitchen of their new house, a place they'd bought 2 years ago with his savings and Victoria's generous bonus. It was nothing fancy, but it had 3 bedrooms, a backyard, and enough space for Emma to come home from college during breaks. He was flipping pancakes when he heard a car pull up in the driveway. Emma burst through the door, her arms full of laundry bags and textbooks. "Dad! I'm home." Daniel turned, his face breaking into a wide smile. "There's my college graduate. Well, almost graduate. 1 semester left, right?" "1 semester," Emma confirmed, dumping her stuff on the couch and rushing to hug him. At 23, she was all grown up, but to Daniel, she'd always be his little girl. They sat down for breakfast, falling into their familiar rhythm of conversation. Emma told him about her classes, her internship at a law firm, her dreams of becoming a child advocate. Daniel listened with pride swelling in his chest. "You know what's funny?" Emma said suddenly, pouring syrup on her pancakes. "I used to be so scared that you'd never feel like my real dad again. That the amnesia had stolen you forever." Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. "And now? Now I realize that love isn't about remembering every moment. It's about showing up every single day and choosing each other." Emma's eyes were bright with emotion. "You did that, Dad. Even when you couldn't remember me, you still chose to love me." "Best decision I never remembered making," Daniel said with a soft laugh. Later that afternoon, Victoria stopped by with her husband James and their 2-year-old son, Christopher. Victoria had gotten married 3 years ago to a kind man who worked as a doctor. She'd learned to let go of guilt and embrace happiness. Little Christopher ran straight to Daniel, his arms stretched up. "Uncle Danny." "Up. Up." Daniel lifted the boy onto his shoulders, and Christopher squealed with delight. Victoria watched with a smile. "He loves you more than anyone." "The feeling's mutual," Daniel said, making silly faces that sent Christopher into giggles. As the sun set, they all gathered in the backyard for a barbecue. Emma and Victoria set the table while Daniel grilled. James played with Christopher on the grass. It was a simple evening, but it was filled with the kind of warmth that only family could bring. Before Victoria left, she pulled Daniel aside. "I never properly thanked you for giving me a second chance at life. Not just for taking those bullets, but for showing me what real courage looks like. You lost everything and still found a way to love. That changed me." "We all needed second chances," Daniel replied. "You gave me a job, a purpose, a way to provide for Emma. You became part of our family. I'd say we're even." Victoria hugged him tightly. "Never even. But always grateful." After everyone left, Daniel and Emma sat on the porch swing, watching fireflies dance in the darkness. It had become their tradition over the years, these quiet moments together. "Dad, do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if you'd never lost your memory?" Emma asked softly. Daniel considered the question carefully. "Sometimes. But then I think about who I am now. Who we are together. And I realize that maybe I needed to forget the old me to become the person I was meant to be." "You think it was meant to be? The shooting, the amnesia. All that pain." "I think pain has a way of reshaping us. Sometimes it breaks us. Sometimes it makes us stronger. I got lucky. I had you to put me back together." Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. "We put each other back together." They sat in comfortable silence, father and daughter, survivors and fighters, bound by a love that transcended memory. The old Daniel Hayes was gone forever, lost in the fog of amnesia. But the new Daniel Hayes was right where he needed to be. He had his daughter's love. He had his purpose. He had his peace. The scars on his chest would never fade. The blank spaces in his memory would never fill. But his heart was full. His life was whole. And as Emma dozed off against his shoulder, Daniel whispered into the night, "Thank you. Thank you for the bullets that nearly killed him but taught him what mattered. Thank you for the amnesia that stole his past but gave him perspective. Thank you for the second chance to be the father Emma deserved." The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself was acknowledging his gratitude. Daniel Hayes had taken 2 bullets to save a broken billionaire and lost his memory. But in losing himself, he'd found everything that truly mattered. Love, family, purpose, home. And that was the real ending, not the trial, not the revenge, not even the healing. The real ending was this: a father and daughter on a porch swing, choosing each other every single day, building a life worth remembering even if the past was forgotten. Some stories end with justice. Some end with closure. This one ended with love. And love, Daniel had learned, was always enough.